I will sing in praise of your forest, waters, your shining sun. As morning breaks, the heaven on high, I lift my heavy load to the sky. Sun comes down with a burning glow, mingles my sweat with the earth below. Oh, island in the sun, built to me by my Father's hand. All my days I will sing in praise of your forest, waters, your shining sands. Oh, island in the sun, built to me by my Father's hand. All my days I will sing in praise of your forest, waters, your shining sand. Hey, hey, hey. I see woman on bended knee, cutting cane for her family. I see man at the waterside, casting nets at the surging tide. Oh, island in the sun, built to me by my Father's hand. All my days I will sing in praise of your forest, waters, your shining sand. Your shining sand. I hope the day will never come when I can't awake to the sound of drum. Never let me miss carnival with calypso songs philosophical. Oh, island in the sun, built to me by my Father's hand. All my days I will sing in praise of your forest, waters, your shining sands. Oh, island in the sun, built to me by my Father's hand. All my days I will sing in praise of your forest, waters, your shining sands.
What an apt way to start our proceeding this evening. And we will continue even better because we are going to, before we get into things, open in prayer. And I ask Dr. Henry to do the prayer.
Good evening, everyone. May I invite us to stand for prayer? Let's pray. O island in the sun, Father, we thank you for this beautiful island and in particular for this region and for your hand of blessing upon our lives. We thank you that we can gather together like this, and you know the purpose, Lord, to speak about our nation and about constitutional reform, to advance the well-being of our people, the aspirations of our nation. And as we share together, we ask for your blessing, your wisdom, your continued guidance, and that together we will build Jamaica so that under God we can advance the welfare of the whole human race. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you so much. You may be seated. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Roxy Nicol. I am from the Ministry of Legal and Constitutional Affairs. And on behalf of the Honorable Minister Marlene Malahoo-Forte, Permanent Secretary Wayne Robertson, the Ministry's team and members of the Constitutional Reform Committee, thank you so much for hosting us here in beautiful Portland. Don't tell anybody I told you this, but it's my favorite parish. So thank you for our next town hall meeting. So I would like to welcome the Custos Rotalorum of Portland, Honorable Lincoln Thaxter. We just reconnected. MP of Portland Eastern, Mrs. Anne-Marie Vaz, councillors, special invited guests, members of the media, attendees both here and online. Thank you so much for joining us. And as we continue with the program, I will ask to come to the lectern Mrs. Anne-Marie Vaz, JPMP, Member of Parliament for Portland Eastern, to bring greetings. Mrs. Vaz.
My East Portland family, it's a beautiful afternoon here in the most beautiful parish in Jamaica. And I would like to welcome the Minister Malahoo-Forte, Minister of Legal and Constitutional Affairs, and her team to Portland on their Road to Republic tour. And these surroundings that we are in should inspire all of us to understand what we have in our hands, the beauty of around us, and the importance of ensuring that the beauty is preserved, but not only the beauty, that the beauty within our people is allowed to shine. Now, we are in our 60th year of independence, and I think it is important now that we get our own president. One of the issues in this road to republic is whether that president will be elected or selected. And that is going to depend on the input of all of us. It is one of the things that all Jamaicans, no matter where you're from, your input is needed in this constitutional reform that we are undertaking. In the local scene, maybe this, as you can see from the turnout, maybe it is not an issue that people understand how the importance of it and the importance of renewing, tweaking the Constitution so that it fits into the modern world and the modern way of thinking that we are in at this time. The issues affecting the people here in Portland are issues surrounding road, water, employment. And while the government is spending billions on infrastructure, right here in Portland, billions of dollars being spent to upgrade our roads. This process has been tedious, to say the least. And I want to share that members of Parliament, we lobby for roads. We lobby for the things that people want. But that's where our involvement really and truly ends, because it's then up to the agencies and the contractors to deliver what was promised in the time that they are tasked to present it. And I want to apologize because we have been living through hell in this parish. But it's what we wanted. And at the end of the day, this is not a rebuild of any road. This is the laying of a foundation. And it is always tedious when you're laying the foundation to build. Because unless it is built on a solid foundation, we'll find ourselves right back here in another 5 years. And we don't want that. Same issue with the water. We have been trying our best, but Portland has found itself in a unique situation where we are having drought, something that we are not used to, coupled with pipes that have been over 40, 50 years old. That's the situation we're working with. We are doing our best. The delivery of water has been improved due to the mains being put along the highway, the government's intervention in trucking water. Is it at the level that we are all happy with? No, but we are working towards it. Another issue faced in locals, which maybe if that was a meeting, you would need 2 halls, is employment. This government has seen fit to remove the fees we are, for the first time in our history, having the lowest unemployment rate. And what that means is that there are more people employed than ever. But there is a shortage of labor across all sectors. And this government is ensuring to remove that barrier, and you can get skills training at Heart NTA Trust now up to the level of an associate degree. While we are working on all the infrastructure and all of that, we also have to work on our Constitution. And that's what we are here about. Because the Constitution affects governance. It affects every single one of us here. And while the issue of the president may be one of the things that we know the most of, there are several other issues that you will hear, and all of us are here to learn so that we can chart the way forward. Because the last Constitution is over how many years? Right, 1962. How many years that? We need a Constitution that will not need to be to be amended for the next 50 years. So we want to get it right now. And this is why I applaud the government for going around to getting the people's input, because this is our Constitution. I feel with Jamaica this. And all of us must start to have a sense of pride in Jamaica and remember that we are Jamaicans and do what is best for our country. Once again, Minister, I welcome all of you here, and we are looking forward to learning. And let me say to my East Portland family, nobody come ask me the questions after. Stand up in here and ask them now, because you have the people who can answer them fully here today. And if I have a question, I'm going to ask too. I'm not a constitutional lawyer, and I'm here to learn so that when my constituents come to me, I can be better able to impart knowledge. But please, my East Portland family, get up and ask the relevant questions, because even those who are not here are online, and they may have the same question. We are here, and it is our business. So let us ensure we have fulsome participation, and I want you to give them a round of applause for coming here today. Thank you all.
Thank you, MP Vaz. I now ask to come to the lectern. One more thing. One
most important thing. Minister Vaz is on the program. But as most of you may have heard, and if you didn't, transport has been added to his portfolio, which is already science, energy, and technology. And that has been done recently. And so he is involved heavily in getting the whole transportation sector organized. So he asked me to pass on his apologies and not to take his absence for anything other than the fact that he is tied up with going about the nation's business. So he sent his apologies, and I want to ensure that the minister hears that. Thank you.
Thank you. I now ask to come to the lectern, Custos Rottalorum of Portland, Honorable Lincoln A. Thaxter, CDJP.
Thank you, moderator, Ms. Nicol. And as she just said, we just made a connection. I sat down there and realized that I had known the moderator for quite some time when I was a member of the Tarrant Baptist Church in Kingston when I was at Calabar. Rabalak. Okay. It is my great pleasure to welcome Minister of Legal and Constitutional Affairs, Mrs. Malahoo, the Honorable Mrs. Malahoo-Forte, Permanent Secretary Mr. Wayne Robertson, members of the Constitutional Reform Committee, our other visitors or justices of the peace who we had a very glorious session this morning, Minister, at the Palace. Some are still here, hoping to learn some more and to pass on to our wide network of justices in the parish. So I am delighted to bring greetings to all Portlanders on this very important occasion this afternoon. Ever since the British, in an act of Parliament, passed the Constitution into law, and which came into full effect in 1962, scholars and other interested parties interested in how we govern ourselves, how we make our organization, our governance structures more relevant to the times. They have voiced consistently the need for some form of overhaul or reform to this constitutional framework. The fact is, many of our citizens have taken only a casual glance at what is truly a vital document that determines so much of our governance procedures and one that influences how we dispense justice to our citizens and who is eligible to constitute our government. It is against this background that I welcome this public consultation and expect that the exchanges will be insightful, generating an awareness of what is it that we have embarked on as we wrestle with some of the critical areas now being aired by the Constitutional Reform Committee. The session promises to be informative, if this morning is anything to go by, and the exchanges certainly will clarify some of those murky areas that will, of necessity, come to light. Again, let me welcome you and wish that the evening will be a productive one. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Custos. Again, good afternoon to everyone who is online, and for those who are just coming in, welcome to our third Town Hall meeting from the Ministry of Legal and Constitutional Affairs. Allow me now to introduce the members that are on the platform. To my left is Dr. David Henry. He's from the Wider Society, faith-based. Next to him is Hugh Small, consultant, counsel and nominee of the leader of the Parliamentary opposition. And of course, we all know the Honorable Marlene Malahoo-Forte. She is Minister of the Ministry of Legal and Constitutional Affairs. And to her left is Dr. Nadine Spence, civil society, social and political commentator. And towards the end is Dr. Elaine McCarthy, chairman of the Jamaica Umbrella Groups of Churches. Please, a round of applause for our committee members. So before I move on to before our minister brings remarks, let me do a litmus test. Anybody in here has ever seen or read the Constitution? Let me see your hands. 1, 2, 3. Oh, not bad. Pretty good. And how many of you know what this process is and able to share? Some? Okay. So our purpose here is to listen to you, hear your concerns, and that you understand even more when you leave here this evening than when you came. Because what you need to understand is that it's about you. If you don't vote for this, we cannot move from a monarchy to a republic. So you need to understand to be able to move forward. So with that said, I ask the Honorable Marlene Malahoo-Forte, Minister of Legal and Constitutional Affairs and co-chairman of the Constitutional Reform Committee, to bring remarks.
Thank you so much, Roxine. Colleague CRC members, Madam MP, Honorable Custos, Permanent Secretary, Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It is riotous to have a meeting in this setting, but perhaps it is the best setting because it reminds us and brings into sharp focus the beauty of our island home. Madam MP, as you brought your remarks and you spoke about the road, and you apologized for the inconvenience, I couldn't help but make a parallel. The theme that we're doing the constitutional reform work under is the road to republic, because we're taking a journey. And the road is by no means a smooth one. There are bumps along the way. We meet people along the way. We pause along the way, but it is taking us on a journey. And the journey is as important as the destination. And so, no need to apologize for the inconvenience that is being experienced while work is in progress to serve the people better. But I believe there are important parallels to be drawn from it. When you take a journey, and sometimes you go into the unknown, sometimes you encounter things along the way. And our journey to transform Jamaica from having King Charles III, King of Jamaica, King of England, as our head of state, to creating an office of president for the proposed Republic of Jamaica is a journey that we're on. And so far, it has been an interesting journey. But this is a journey which mandates consultations like this one. Not only are we informing you about what we're doing, but we're also hearing from you, taking your input. It's a teach and learn engagement. I observed that not many hands were raised when the question was asked about the Constitution. I'm not surprised. I know MP Vaz deals with it as a member of Parliament, but even the lawyers in Parliament have confessed that there are many things in the Constitution that they don't know. So it's not surprising to me that many Jamaicans are unfamiliar with the Constitution, but it is sad, because the truth is that it is the supreme law of the land. It sets the framework for our governance arrangements. And many Jamaicans do not know what that governance arrangement looks like. Some people don't even know that the division of the island into constituencies is something that is in the Constitution. Some people don't know that. The Parliament is set out in the Constitution, comprising what is called the legislative branch of government. And the Parliament has not only the House of Representatives, where you elect members of Parliament, like MP Vaz and myself and others, but it has the appointed senators, as well as, who knows the third part of the Parliament of Jamaica? The King. The Parliament of Jamaica comprises the monarch, the House of Representatives, and the Senate. The judiciary is another branch of government. So there are many simple things that people do not understand. What are we doing here today? The government is reforming the Constitution in phases because the work of reform is complex. When we got to our 60th anniversary of independence in 2022, we were invited to reflect as a nation on the work and the journey we have taken so far and the work that remains to be done. Out of that reflection, the decision to move forward with the change from having the King of England as our head of state to putting in our own head of state in the office of President for a Republic of Jamaica took on new life. So when we say goodbye to the King and we're establishing the Republic, a number of questions have to be answered. What kind of president? How long will the president serve for? what should qualify you to become president? Issues like those. So far, Jamaicans have been saying that they want to understand the types of presidency, the different processes by which a president is to be put in office, and many are saying we want a say in the process. What is emerging is that there is a lot to clarify, and there is also a lot to hear from the people. A lot to hear from the people. So today, we're here to tell you that in phase 1 of the reform work, it will include abolishing the monarchy. Some of you don't even know what that means. A monarchy, we don't have a king or queen in Jamaica, right? But that's the form of government we have, a monarchy. And the king is in England. And the king's subject here in Jamaica need a visa to see the king in England. If that alone is not grievous, I don't know what else is. But the king and the monarchy they have a complicated history and presence in Jamaica, coming out of colonialism and tied up with the slave trade. And today we are still experiencing some of the legacies of slavery. But ladies and gentlemen, we really are focused on the foundations of a just government, even as we make the changes. You're wondering what you have to do with it? Well, believe it or not, to abolish King Charles III, King of Jamaica, as our head of state, and establish a president for the Republic of Jamaica, Parliament alone can't make that change, because the place of the monarch is deeply protected from easy change in the Constitution of Jamaica. And when we go through the process of putting a law, a proposed law in the form of a bill before the Parliament, government alone can't make the change. Government and opposition together, important as that is, alone can't make the change. Ultimately, the people who are registered to vote for members of Parliament have to approve that change. So among the many things I want you to understand from this engagement is that you have a role to play in the changes that we're seeking to make in Jamaica. And I'm going to invite you to enumerate, to participate in the process, because it's not any member of the public, and also to share with us your views. I just want to say that, as I have said elsewhere, that it is said that there are universal laws that govern the conduct of human affairs. These laws are independent of time and place, and they guarantee fundamental freedoms to everyone and constrains the way in which government should behave. These laws command each of us to do our duty and forbid all of us from doing wrong. The laws of the state rule over the leader, just as the leader rules over the people. And the rule of government should be in agreement with the law. So the question arises, as we move to make the change, what form of government is the best government? Those who have studied this matter far and wide, looking on what has happened in many nations, say that the best form of government embraces a balance of powers, as a just government must be founded on a system of checks and balances. The ideal government is said to be one which combines the best qualities of a monarchy, an aristocracy, and a democracy. This sort of state would have an executive with preeminent and royal qualities, but also grants certain powers to leading citizens and to the people according to their values and judgment. This kind of constitution, first of all, offers a great degree of equality to citizens, but it also provides stability. It is said that when one type of government alone rules, it frequently decays into the corresponding degenerative form. So the king becomes a tyrant, the aristocracy turns into a factional oligarchy, and democracy becomes mob rule and anarchy. A mixed and balanced system does not usually turn into something else. Instead, it remains stable unless the leader is wicked. For there is no reason for a government to change when each citizen is guaranteed his own role and there is no underlying debased form into which it might slip and fall. I have taken the time to share that with you just to let you know that there are underlying principles guiding the government as we move to make the change that we are seeking to make. And at the end of the day, we want a government that is accountable to the people. We want a distribution of power that has checks and balances. And I know Jamaicans have been very, very concerned about accountability in government. We also look at what has happened elsewhere. And we're not reinventing the wheel. We're not throwing out everything in the existing constitution. We intend to keep what has worked well for us, make some changes to what hasn't worked well, and replace some things that have outlived their usefulness. And we believe that having the British monarch as our head of state has outlived its usefulness in the best interest of the people of Jamaica. I want more than anything else for this session to be an engaging one. So I'm going to bring my remarks to a close and to say to you that no question is a silly question. And I join MP Vaz in saying, don't miss the opportunity to have your question answered, because a lot of MPs come and they're asking the question. So when we come to you, as we are now, use the opportunity. We know that you are not constitutional law experts, even lawyers, and we have 2 lawyers in the committee here on stage. We have other lawyers, and it's a whole learning process for all of us. Before I take my seat, let me just tell you that you will be called upon to approve any change that is made in respect of the monarch. Any change to the Parliament, to the head of state, to where the executive authority of Jamaica lies. And it's going to be important that you know what you are going to vote to approve. So please pay close attention. I know things like these seem far removed from you. Yes, it's the road, yes, it's the water, it's employment. I understand that. But your constitution sets the overall stage for the governance structure, and it sets the stage for holding government accountable in your best interest. So thank you for turning out. Thank you for turning out. Please ask your question, and no question is a silly question. All right?
Thank you so much, Minister. And following up on that, I want to ensure that whatever it is that you do not understand, make sure you ask. That's what I'm here for. So if anyone is speaking and you're still not sure if they've answered the question, and you say, Lord, them talk nicey, and you stop there, and then you go back and you still don't understand, that defeats the purpose. So let me pick up from where Minister says, who understands what a referendum is? Tell me, sir, what is a referendum? Thank you so much. So the Constitution, the referendum is a direct vote by the electorate. The electorate includes any Jamaican citizen who is over the age of 18 years, lives in Jamaica, who is qualified and registered to vote. So you get that, all right? So when you hear the word referendum and anybody gets scared of that word, that is what it is. It's all about you. And the monarchy, as Minister says, is what we have now. We are headed by someone who is appointed, which is the Governor General, appointed by the monarch on the advice of the Prime Minister. So that's what we're looking to move away from towards a republic. So anything you have to ask and you don't understand, ensure that you ask again, because I want everybody to have something clear before you leave here. Can you all promise me that? All right. And you have microphones on either side, so you have your questions. Please step to the mic and make your questions heard. We want to hear from you. And the same gentleman who answered the question, could you introduce yourself, sir, and be brief on your question, sir, because we want it answered. So please, go ahead.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Colin Bell. I am the PNP aspirant for East Portland and the councillor caretaker for the Fellowship Division, Chink, Fleas and Flies. I have a number of questions. Minister, welcome to Portland, and the distinguished ladies and gentlemen on the platform. You mentioned, Minister, that there are a number of things in the Constitution, and I've been grappling with one, is the role of Deputy Prime Minister in our Constitution. One, why do we need a President and a Prime Minister? Why can't we just have one? Canada, which is a member of the Commonwealth, just have a Prime Minister. The United States only have a President. Why we need to mix both? And the third question, as a child of a slave, a maroon, I am ready to remove the king and also the final court of appeal. Why is it should I pay $170,000 for a visa that I'm not guaranteed of getting that visa, so as to get my final appeal answered in the UK? I am suggesting that we move totally from the British, who had enslaved our people, who have raped and robbed this country, who have paid slave masters for slaves and have not paid the slaves. So I'm asking for total decolonization. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. You have three questions. He asked about the Deputy PM, about the President and PM, and Court of Appeal.
I'm just going to answer the third one, right? I think if we're going to move towards a republic, it is inconsistent with being a republic for us to have our final court of appeal to be the King's Court. It's inconsistent. No, I'm not saying what the final court should be, but it would be inconsistent. So I'm agreeing with you that we need to identify a final court of appeal. It might be the CCJ or some other thing, but that's a discussion which we'll have to have as to where that final court should be. The other questions I leave to more eminent people.
The other question was asking, why do we need a Deputy Prime Minister, or why do we need a President and a PM? Minister, I think it's well.
Be assured, ladies and gentlemen, that the issue of which final court is a matter that will have to be fully discussed, and it will be top priority in phase 2 of the reform. Top priority. So you cited Canada as only having a prime minister. That's not entirely correct. Canada, like Jamaica, is a constitutional monarchy. Canada, like Jamaica, has King Charles III as the head of state. And Canada, like Jamaica, has a Governor General representing King Charles III as the head of state, separate and apart from the current Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, who is the head of government. So that's a little misunderstanding on your part. The next question, we do not have in the Constitution the role of Deputy Prime Minister. Many governments do not have it, but conventionally, Deputy Prime Ministers have been named from time to time. So one of the questions that we may have to consider is whether we move to have a Deputy Head of Government formalized within our constitutional arrangement. Some countries have their Deputy Presidents and other deputies stated.
May I?
Yes.
So you just said that the post of Deputy Prime Minister is not in the Constitution.
No, it's not.
But we are paying somebody $21 million to be Deputy Prime Minister.
Yes, sir.
So that's unconstitutional.
No, sir. It doesn't make it unconstitutional. Whatever your issue may be with the pay, it doesn't make it unconstitutional.
But you just admit that the post is not in the Constitution.
There are not everything in the arrangements of the government is set out in the Constitution. And the Constitution is supported by a body of conventions. And you also have other laws. All right?
That is why we're trying to fix it, sir. We're trying to do what is called Jamaicanize the Constitution.
I know,
so that it fits in.
there are issues, you know. Don't for one moment think I'm not aware that there are many issues. And everything will not be resolved in the constitutional reform process. But we are here listening to the people, and to the extent that a problem needs resolution, I certainly will be taking it back to the appropriate place in government for consideration to be given with the input of the people for the appropriate solution.
As a Maroon, I'm just begging that when we go to the referendum, we remove Britain totally, our former slave masters. Don't have nothing more to do with it.
Duly noted. Thank you. Thank you so much for your questions and comment.
Thank you so much, sir. And I'm also a Maroon, so, you know, she has one of us. I have, before anybody else steps up, I have a question from YouTube. I'm not sure which person will take it. The question is, will Jamaican people gain the right to their own beaches? Will the colonial law, the Beach Control Act of 1956, be overturned and rights granted to the people in a land where only 0.6% is accessible? Who will take that? Everybody looking to Minister?
Well, no. I know that the beach issue has become a very contentious issue. And I, like many Jamaicans, love the beach. And I do feel strongly that the people of Jamaica should have first access to our best beaches. All right? But we do have some challenges, you know. Let's not for one moment forget that part of the freedom and free will that we protect so much has the flip side of indiscipline and lack of responsibility, etc. But I understand, and I think we will have to deal with this issue of access to our beach frontally. I know that already a new beach policy is being designed.
Thank you so much, Minister. Sir, could you introduce yourself and go ahead with your question?
My name is Wilburn Carr. I'm from Islington, the good one, up here in Portland. I am the Vice Chairman of the Winifred Beach Benevolent Society, and I'm also the spokesman for Portland Environmental Action Group. We work collaboratively with the Jamaica Beach Birthright Movement, JABEM, on environmental issues. Minister, constitutional reform is not simply removing the monarchy of England. It's about meaningfully removing the vestiges of colonialism and adopting laws that better the lives of our people. These vestiges still linger in our country and continue to impact our lives. This is why the government is seeking reparations from England, and I've set up a reparations committee. Our laws are littered with colonial era legislation and promotes inequity and inequality. I want to focus on one today and get an understanding if the committee is considering fixing the issue of beach, river, and river access rights constitutionally. The Beach Control Act of 1956 is a colonial era legislation. And that is driving beaches across access. The Beach Control Act of 1956 is a colonial era legislation that is driving beach access discrimination. This legislation does not give Jamaicans general rights access to our beaches. There is no general right access to bathe, fish, or walk along our shores. And use this group of privilege, there is group of privileged individuals now see our beaches and coastline as their backyard and exclude ordinary Jamaicans. We see hotels, villas, and wealthy developments along the coast continue to exclude Jamaicans, their birthright. Portland had to fight for Winifred Beach and now the Blue Lagoon. The situation at the Blue Lagoon is still precarious. While all the lands are privately held and the government road leading to the lagoon has been restricted for months, no rafting on the lagoon, while property owners in the lagoon basked in their privileges and security. Portland Environmental Action Group and JABEM is asking the Constitutional Committee if they will embrace the aspiration of the Jamaican people and remove the colonial era legislation, namely the Beach Control Act of 1956, from our system simultaneously with the replacement of the monarch and replacing it with constitutional guarantees for general and unfettered rights of our beach access, equality to all Jamaicans, irrespective of race and social economic status.
Thank you, sir. Go ahead, Dr. Spence.
If I can comment on that. I think one of the first, I'm chair of the Public Engagement Committee of the Constitutional Reform Committee, and one of the first groups that I had down to present to the Constitutional Committee is JABEM, because I recognize that the matter of beach access for all of us is an important one. I remember some years ago going to Barbados and hearing the Prime Minister of Barbados then talk about swimming being a human right for people who live on an island. And I agree with that, and I sincerely believe. I didn't grow up near the water. My closest association to the water was when Newmarket was flooded. I'm from St. Elizabeth. The other beautiful parish was when, the other best parish, was when Newmarket was flooded in the 1970s. And I like you, I'm very careful of that post of our colonial and slavery reality, and the fact that there's a lot that we need to do to make Jamaica a more equal and equitable space, and that we need to look at our legislation and look at where, through time, we continue to disempower and hurt groups of people because of the color of their skin or for whatever other reason we have used. And I agree with you. I think the Constitutional Reform Committee must examine the matter of beach rights, and why we must examine it, or access to our beach, is because Jamaicans want us to do it. And I think that our job is to look at those issues that are brought to us, or that the people have indicated that we need to examine. And so for that reason, when we met as a committee, I said to the committee that we must listen to the people who are talking about beach access. And the minister has said, you know, this is also a matter that she's very, I know she can speak for herself. She's very much conscious of and believing. So I think that the committee will give that matter its sincerest attention.
Thank you so much, Dr. Spence. Minister.
Will be dealt with in phase 2 of the reform program. I hear the concerns about access to our beaches, and when you sit in a setting like this, you can understand. But even outside of a setting like this, I myself have strong views on the matter, and so the cries of the public resonate a lot with me. Be assured that we will hear and we will make the appropriate recommendations from the consultations. But there is also a security dimension to our marine borders that should be taken into account. So the matter is not as simple as it appears, but what really should we do when we're island people and you can't walk across the boundaries? Because when you step off, you're stepping off in the water. We'll talk about it and we will hear you out fully on it.
Thank you so much, Minister. And we have questions from online. Richard is asking, what are the plans of the committee to engage young people like myself in this process of reform? Dr. Spence?
Okay. Hello, Richard. Good evening. Well, we do have a youth engagement committee, and the committee is co-chaired by Sujay Boswell and Danielle Mullings. Danielle is a past president of the guild at the UWI Mona. And the youth committee has been actively engaging young people across Jamaica and the diaspora. So I think if you could connect to us on social media and send us an email at constitutionalreform@mlca.gov.jm. And if you want the Constitutional Committee to connect with you and your group, then please do so, because we are amenable, we are flexible, and we want to hear from you. So I know the Youth Committee is doing a lot of work at ensuring that young people are connected and engaged in the process.
Thank you, Dr. Spence. Sir, do you have a question? Please introduce yourself.
Good afternoon. I'm Basil Miller. And I would like to say, as I listen to the music of Harry Belafonte, and watch the mountains and the rivers, it was very moving, and we must be proud of the parish which we live in. There are a few questions that I have not heard and it have not been heard. We talk about participate in the Constitution of the GA. What I never heard, can a dual citizen be a part of it? For you only look like you speak of, or if you're not Jamaican. So we need to make that clear, how we can be a part of it if we are dual citizens. The next question on beaches. If my experience teaches me right, there was once when no walls must be more than 4 feet. So when we drive through the parish or the island, we can enjoy seeing our shores. So the rule was 4 feet high. Then the next part with that is, where there is a wall that we cannot see to, there must be a gate and lead us down to the beach. And we should have the privilege to enjoy our waters and our shores. So with that, the next question is, what kind of constitution are we going to have? We have to be very careful, because how are we going to be elect our next republic, or we are going to appoint them? And we must get those facts clear, for I would rather see we elected so every born Jamaican, regardless of color or skin, we can decide that there is no monarch or the Brown family or the Williams family, so Jamaica can be selected from whatever walks of life and be one of the heads of state. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Miller. Let's start with the dual citizenship.
One of the issues that we are looking at is who can vote. And presently under our Constitution, a Commonwealth citizen is entitled to vote in our elections. And a Commonwealth citizen can include somebody from very far away, who is not necessarily Jamaican. And so we are looking at that right now. We are favoring a position where Jamaicans can vote. However, there has to be a certain residential requirement. They'd have to be in the country for a certain period of time. And certainly if you want to be in the parliament and represent the country, you ought to live here for a certain period of time.
Thank you. The beaches seem to be a hot topic.
May I just add in respect of the dual citizenship? So to become a member of parliament, the citizenship qualification that is specified in the Constitution is Commonwealth citizenship, not Jamaican citizenship. And there is also a disqualification provision. Any person other than a Commonwealth citizen is viewed as a foreigner in our Constitution. That is what we inherited in our arrangements coming out of the British Empire. And the British Empire actually transitioned into the Commonwealth of Nations with the British monarch as head of the Commonwealth. And so the Jamaica Constitution, like many others that are modeled in that way, has a special place for the Commonwealth. Jamaicans, the contentious issue of dual citizenship arose in respect of Jamaicans who have American citizenship, and the United States of America is not part of the Commonwealth of Nations. So it is one of the matters, actually, that require the approval of the people in a referendum to change. And Jamaicans seem to have mixed views on it. Some feel that, you know, Jamaicans who travel to the US should be able to participate in the parliament, who travel to and take on American citizenship. Others say that you need an undivided loyalty. So it will come down to questions around allegiance. And it is one of the matters that we are deliberating on in the committee. And in so doing, we are taking into account the views that have been expressed in the public domain.
Minister, let me dig into where you spoke about Commonwealth. I saw the looks on some persons' faces. Can you go deep and ask, for the person who will ask, what exactly is being a Commonwealth member?
So the Commonwealth comprises countries, well, formerly comprised countries that were once British colonies. Now there is a process where other countries who are not British colonies can apply for membership in the Commonwealth of Nations, and many have applied. So right now we have, within the 56-member group, countries with a different background and history than those who had the shared history of being a former British colony. And that is really, when we talk about the Commonwealth, that's what we're talking about.
Thank you.
Countries, so almost all of the English-speaking Caribbean are former colonies and members of the Commonwealth. We have Canada, we have the UK, we have Australia, we have New Zealand, but we have countries like Pakistan, India. We have many on the African continent, and recently some that were not former British colonies like Rwanda, for example, coming into the Commonwealth. So we really have to revisit, why should, say, a Pakistani or a Rwandan be eligible to sit in our parliament after coming to Jamaica, residing for 12 months, and not a Jamaican born here who has taken on American citizenship? So these are some of the things that we are discussing.
Thank you, Minister. Hugh Small, would you like to weigh in, sir?
Not on the Commonwealth topic. Although I would remark that governments are faced with complex issues. And they have a lot of power to deal with complex issues. But it requires deep consultation and consideration. In the common law of Britain, the state owns all the land between the high water mark and the low water mark. And if you have a piece of land by the sea, you cannot exercise ownership over that high water, low water mark. And in some places, it's a considerable part of the value of land that is on the coastline. But that is not the problem we're facing. The problem that we are facing is that as tourism has become the key card to our foreign exchange earnings and foreign investments, more and more of the lands that are close to or actually bound on where the high water mark is have been sold to tourist investors. And I'm not drawing a distinction now between Jamaican investors and other investors. But what we have not paid attention to is making sure that people have access to go to get to the beach. And I'm not talking now just about the part between the high water mark and the low water mark, but to get to the beach so that they can sit down, take off as much of their clothes as the law permits,
Sir?
expose themselves, whether or not they would be of interest to photographers, but just wade in the water, splash. Well, that's another question. But wade in the water, splash, and enjoy. And what has been happening over the years is that access to the beach, access to the sea, we didn't talk about beach, access to the sea is being restricted because beachfront land and land along the seacoast is in private hands generally. We have not had a state policy that establishes beaches along the coastline every so many miles that are reserved for the enjoyment of I&I. In the same way in which we have not had, and we have to come to terms with it now because we're not pointing fingers at anybody, so please don't think we're trying to joke out anybody's eye. Same way we have not had reservation of land for parks. And we have to start thinking about it because the horse gone through the gate already. And so when we talk about resilient corridors, which I think is one of the buzzwords now for tourism development, we're not talking about resilience in terms of the enjoyment of I&I. We're talking about enhancing the attractiveness of Jamaica as a tourist destination. Last point, I know you want to give somebody else a chance, moderator. There was an article in the newspaper this week that spoke about the Tourism Enhancement Fund providing money for the development of Reggae Falls. That's in St. Thomas. Good idea. But when you put it that way, it almost sounds as if it is being done as an adjunct of tourism enhancement, which is not primarily focused on I&I, although a lot of us as Jamaicans go and enjoy the beach. So it's a conversation that needs to be widened. It's a difficult problem because there are constitutional issues in it. How is the government going to get back land that is going to be available to give us access to bathing and enjoying the seawater without infringing the rights of people who already own property. But the conversation needs to start, and the opposition has been as quiet on the subject as the government has been talkative on the question of resilient corridors and tourist enhancement.
Thank you so much, sir. Sir, you have a question?
Please inform that the beach access policy is under review, and there is in fact a draft that will, in short order, there is a consultative process that is going to take place, and a discussion paper will go to the Parliament. So the issue is not falling on deaf ears. But Hugh is right, it's a complex matter, and we have gone down a road a long time, but make no mistake, the concerns being raised in the public sphere, they're not falling on deaf ears.
Thank you. Sir, please introduce yourself and ask your question. You've been standing for a bit.
Yes, my name is Richard, the Emperor Core. I am from right across there. I was born and raised, 6 Love Lane. My question concerns land, and I'll get to that, but given everything that's been spoken and asked and answered about the beach, I have a very particular question, and especially since Mr. Smalls just mentioned, everything seems to be talking about private investments, pretty much making us a landlocked country. But where we stand right now, as I understand it, and I stand corrected if I'm wrong, this is still government property. Like I said, I was born right there. I swam these channels all my youth life. This is where I played most of my football. I went to school right up on the hill. This was free for myself and all the other Portlanders and visitors to this country and from this island to come to. Not long ago, I took my wife and children here to go to the beach, and I was stopped saying the beach is closed. Mark my surprise, the beach is closed. This beach has never been closed. How is this beach closed? In conversation with the security, he's explaining to me that it's the Port Authority now in control and they're concerned about people's welfare and well-being. My granduncle taught me to swim by taking me out on that concrete buoy there, throwing me off. That's how I learned to swim. The beach was never closed. Nobody was concerned about people's safety then. So this is not private. This is government if I know my facts. And I stand corrected if I don't know my facts. But this is still not accessible to us, Portlanders. So that is an additional question to my original question, and it just forms itself based on the discussions that have been taking place here. So I'd like someone to explain that bit to me and others that exist in this country like this, and where will that fall in this new reform? My original question surrounded land, and again, I stand corrected if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that most, if not all, the land here in this country is crown land, meaning it's owned by the monarchy that we're trying to get rid of. So my question is, will they just say, okay, take the land, now it's yours, you could do what you want with it, and then we, as the people, get it? Like, I have a land title that suggests or implies that it's not really my land, it's the crown land that I'm holding. So that is my original question about the land. What happens with the land when and if the separation takes place? But I'd also like to get some answers about this particular beautiful space that we are in now, that I grew up on thinking this is available whenever I wanted it. Thank you.
Well, I can't answer exactly what, and I don't know if MP Vaz can, but the Port Authority should be able to answer. I noted when I was coming in, though, that the sign said that it was public access. Bear in mind that you have facilities here, and it is in fact a port, because, sorry? The beach, I personally don't know, but between MP Vaz and myself, I'm sure we can get some answer from the Port Authority in respect of what beyond the signs and the access point would inform the rules that they have in place. All right.
One of the things I think we need to look at, since you have touched on the point, is you spoke about crown lands. What are crown lands are vested in the Commissioner of Lands. So it really is the state of Jamaica that owns, as a general inheritance, a lot of land that was crown lands. But that's just a general answer, but needs more specific investigation with respect to a particular piece of land. But when authorities like the Port Authority are set up, they are parts of the state that are governed by statutes. And one of the things that we have to look at is whether or not it is in order for them to behave as if they were private investors or private enterprises and not part of the public patrimony. These are complex questions. I'm not throwing it at the government because it has been going on for a long time. And so some of the big organizations like the Port Authority, they almost allow unto themselves.
Thank you so much, MP. Mrs. Vaz, you can use it. The Port Authority is here. Somebody's here that can give us a response. She's on our way, so she will be able to give you a response, sir. So we will get that response. Sir, could you introduce yourself and ask your question?
Yes, greetings, everyone. Xavier Yestelin. May God give you good health. I am Haile Mikhail Kojo, and I'm many things to many people, including being the parliamentary caretaker for Westmoreland Eastern, and also the author of this document, We the People Proposed Constitution of Republic Jamaica, a copy of which is with our parliamentarians and our Governor General. And I patiently await the fulfillment of my request made on May 17, Madam Minister, to meet with the Constitutional Reform Committee to go through this document article by article. All the questions that have been raised are answered in that document, this document. Now, we talk about a referendum. We had one on September 19, 1961, my younger brother's birthday, and the people voted for us to become an independent nation. However, we accepted this 1962 problem, and we are trying to get rid of it now. What we need to do is move on with a document that is ours, like unto this. 1991-92, the government had a constitutional reform program headed by retired Justice James Carr, now deceased. I made the submission to use the same documents to make this. It was bypassed. I wrote this under a different name, the proposed Constitution of Republic Jamaica, and released it on July 26, 2021. The Ministry of Legal and Constitutional Affairs was established January 2022, and this committee, Constitutional Reform Committee, was established March 22, 2023, this year. So this document is actually older than the process that is going on now. What I am saying is this. We still, everyone here can get a copy. Send a WhatsApp text to 1-876-225-1163. It has the Prime Minister as the head of state. Reason being that we have a council of ministers. So the Prime Minister is the head of state. We could call him Don Dada if we really want to make it a Jamaican term. Our head of state, not Prime Minister or Deputy or President, but a Don Dada. What you say? Yeah, we have a whole of Dons in Jamaica, so we have a Don Dada as our head of state. We could do that. All right? It guarantees rights to our minerals like bauxite, to our beaches. It is to be taught in schools. Land, Ministry of Land, Wood, Water, Housing and Infrastructure is mandated by this document to develop and maintain a policy that will eliminate squatting and give citizens rights to land impartially at an affordable cost. Very many more things. If I'm to read, I've read this document many, many times, that's why I'm conversant with it, and it will take me about an hour and a half to go through everything. you can get a copy, 1-876-225-1163. And I await the Constitutional Reform Committee's invitation to discuss this thing properly, so we can create a new and glorious history for ourselves and our future generations that will increase our self-esteem, dignity, and integrity. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mikhail Kojo. So the gentleman that asked about the land here, I have with me Donna Samuda Wilson from the Port Authority to explain to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. With regards to beach access, thank you. With regards to beach access, the public does have access to the space. Obviously, it is a port facility, which means that there are going to be times when you will not have access to the space. Once there's a vessel in port, because of security concerns, that will not happen. In case you haven't noticed, because you said you've only been here once and you did not have access, we have had a number of vessels that have come in and they've used this spot specifically, this dock, which means that when they are here, you cannot be given access. It's a certified ISPS port. Irrespective of that, we do have a responsibility. NEPA dictates, the NEPA Act dictates that once we have a beach facility, we have to retain 2 lifeguards based on the size of this beach. If there is no lifeguard here, we're open 7 days per week. If there is one that is on vacation leave and the other one is off, we will not give access. We have a responsibility to uphold.
Madam, with due respect, when there was a chain link fence here separating the bathing beach from where the ships docked, right? I don't know, maybe we were deviant boys, used to climb the ship ropes. Ships were docked here when we used to swim there.
Sir,
so
since 9/11, a lot has changed, and that's one of the things.
Including our access to our beaches.
Since 9/11, but if you're entering another country, aren't there additional security measures that you have to go through?
We're not talking about another country, we're talking about Port
right, but I'm saying
right
similarly, in Jamaica, there are security concerns. We have a responsibility to the vessels that are here.
All right, we won't be able to resolve the issue here and now, but be assured that whatever else needs to be done, perhaps a community meeting or something.
This is one of the issues I feel we as Jamaicans have, and this is why we first mentioned the poor turnout in the beginning. Now it's gotten a bit better, right? We speak to us as Jamaicans as if we are the least of the concerns. Everything else is of a greater concern than us. So we're talking about these accesses to the beaches and everything else, but the major concerns are the security concerns of visitors to our shores. I'm not saying visitors to our shores should not be assured and safe, right? Understand what tourism means to this country, right? There are millions of
Remind me of your name, sir.
My name is Richard, the Emperor Core.
Richard, yes. I know that there are lots of grievances and a lot of issues. And I think it's clear that perhaps a forum and a specific conversation needs to be had with the Port Authority and the people. I do believe that you would appreciate that rules matter, but the rules have to be designed in a way that whatever you're seeking to regulate is very clear, and whose interest and how you balance all of that.
I like the word balance.
So first of all, the representative of the port has clarified that there is access. However, at certain times, the access is restricted due to certain rules that they have to follow. This whole process of constitutional reform, is about looking on how we order the state, how we set our rules, how we distribute, how we exercise authority. So it's not an entirely unrelated issue, but the work is being done in phases, specifically in respect of the Constitution. And this part of it is to kind of focus attention on it, not shutting down what concerns you have raised. I'm happy that the MP was quick to ask the representative of the authority to come and provide an answer. It appears that the answer does not entirely satisfy you at this time. I'm going to ask the MP if she can facilitate a further discussion between yourself and others who may have similar concerns with the Port Authority. And if a matter is not resolved out of that conversation, Madam MP, I'm going to ask that any other concerns be sent up at a higher level. How does that sound?
Very well.
Thank you so much. Good. Dr. McCarthy, you wanted to say?
Well, I think Minister basically had covered it,
okay.
yes.
All right, so we have a number of persons online, and we don't want them to feel left out. MP, you have something to say before we move to these questions?
I could not stand in this meeting any longer without clarifying something. The Minister of Tourism was at a town hall meeting on Friday about the destination assurance. And the destination assurance framework that they are putting in place now does not speak to a tourist, because what we don't understand and what needs to be clear is that everybody who is not, does not live in Portland and come here to go to the beach or to go to Boston or to go to Reach Fall is a tourist. And at no point in time was the minister talking about tourists that come from overseas. And I want to make that clear because he was painfully clear in stating that this Destination Assurance Council and the whole framework of the safe, seamless experience begins right here at home, because we have to be involved. And if COVID has taught us anything, and I said it in 2019, that I am not concerned about the tourists from abroad coming into Portland. Because one thing I know, there are 3 million people in this country. And if they come to Portland, I will survive. And what happened with COVID is that Portland became a haven for Jamaican tourists. And I want to tell you that of all the parishes that have had tourists increase to their areas, Portland has been the highest amount of people coming for weekend, and it started from in COVID because people felt that the offerings, our tourism offerings, were small and safe, and they felt secure, and they did not fear for their lives. And that has continued to this day. You go into the junction on a Friday, and you sit down, and you think you're on the I-95 in Miami with people coming to Portland. And if you stay on a Saturday evening in that same junction, you will think you're on the I-95 with people going out. So the tourism that is important to me and is important to the minister, and that was stressed in the town hall meeting, is the tourism for the Jamaican tourists. When we get the product right for Jamaicans, and we Jamaicans have the highest standard of any set of people in the world, if we can get it right for the Jamaican tourists, then we're on the right path. We wouldn't have to advertise. We wouldn't have to spend the millions in budget. And so I'm saying to you, the Minister of Tourism with the Destination Assurance is for all of us safety, and for all of us to understand that tourism is not about the man that owns a hotel with 500 rooms. It's about the farmer that is farming the scallion in the garden, or the craft vendor that is weaving her basket. So I just want to make that clear, because I could not have the Minister of Tourism come down here and stress that point, that a tourist is anybody traveling across Jamaica, and we experienced 2 years of that because of COVID. So I just want to make that point clear on behalf of the Minister of Tourism. It's about Jamaicans. It's about us and our country and how we want to run this country.
Madam MP, it seems as if we will have to ensure that the people are educated on that point. Yes. Right. Yes.
Thank you so much. Sir, the third question. We are moving to a republic. What kind of president we're going to have? If it's a non-executive or an executive president. Okay, well, we'll go to that, but this gentleman has been standing for a little bit. Sir, no, I have it written down.
At this stage, we're leaning toward a hybrid presidency.
Sir, Minister, I keep telling you, we need to break it down. What does that mean? Since you've brought it up, Minister, what does that mean?
Not a ceremonial president, a president that will exercise a set of powers, some ceremonial, some executive. All right? We're tailor-making something for the Jamaican people. That is the million-dollar question that we're hearing from the people on. Duly noted, sir. We're hearing the views of Jamaicans on that. Thank you for sharing your point. Yes.
Please introduce yourself, sir, and ask your question.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Hatley Cleary. I'm the JLP caretaker for the Fairfield Division. Welcome to everyone who is here this afternoon. First and foremost, I would like to let everyone know this afternoon that as Jamaican, we are out of many, one people. And sometimes I hear this blackness being pounded about, and we need to understand that we are mixed. It's not just one color that makes up Jamaica. And it's neither maroon or Ashanti, whatever you are, we are all Jamaicans. So we have to be very careful of the fact that as a Jamaican, we are all supposed to have all the same privileges. So as it relates to our beaches and our rivers, I've heard a lot of persons mentioning our beaches and our rivers. But what I've not heard anybody speak about is how important is responsibility. Because as Jamaican, what I've noticed is that we have access to a lot of places, and in many years down the road, those places have become dumps because of how we operate as a people. As a people, we need to start going back to the drawing board and teaching our people to be responsible, because we have lost that along the way. And I have seen fishes, shrimp, crayfish in the river just floating. Why? Because people just poison it for one home. You just want fish or janga for your yard and you go poison one whole river. Why are we not talking about this thing and educating our people that when you do that, there are rippling effects? And for every action, there is definitely an equal and opposite reaction. Why are we not speaking about having access to the riverside and the beach, but we have people cutting down the trees and burning coal and all of those things, and nobody is acting responsible? Where are the movers and the shakers when all these things are happening? We turn the blind eye in many cases, and we are playing politics too much in this. Everything we mix with politics, even community development sometimes, and things that can help to grow, allow the beaches to be safer and better, sometimes because of political expediency, we turn the blind eye. It shouldn't be any problem for JLP, PMP, NOP at all to work together for the betterment of the community. And as a result of that, we have reached a stage we are pandering to the gallery. We are only, look at us today. Where are the people? And if it was roadblock, you would see the place full. Yeah? Why aren't we more responsible as a people? Why the people who can get you out for a roadblock can't get you out for a meeting? Where are the people that want to hear their voices should be heard? Where are the people that they're going to say they didn't know and they didn't hear? But if a roadblock is out there, they come out with power saw and machete and gas and everything like that, looting and shooting as if they will. We need to understand that as a leader, if we do not lead from the front, we are just followers. People call me, I won't participate in no roadblock. I tell them, let us talk about it first. We can write our placard and stand up, and we can be seen and be heard the same way. When a roadblock is mounted, do you know how dangerous that is? And other people, we sit down and acting as if we want to be future leaders. And if I am a rebel, but I'm a sensible rebel, right? And if we want changes in our country, fine, I understand if our beaches are going, sometimes we have to get back some, but we don't do it with force. There's a thing that we call communication. There's a thing that we call negotiation. We can sit at the table and get action done, but we have become barbaric in our actions. We have become just lick down and chop down and mash down. We need to get back to the state where we can sit as a people reason the people, and fight for better in our country. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Clare. Responsibility. That is very important, and we need to be responsible. It's one island we have, so we have to take care of it as we move forward. As I said, we have a number of questions online. Let me try and get to them. This question says, this is from Richard. Will the committee be reviewing the role of Parliament? Currently, I do not believe that Parliament is as involved as it should be in the decision-making governance. It seems decision-making is the domain of the Cabinet.
Speaking personally, that is an issue of great concern to me. I actually feel that we have a prime ministerial dictatorship, to be blunt, and that the executive is controlled by the prime minister. I'm not speaking of a particular prime minister, I'm speaking of a role. The executive is controlled by the prime minister, and so is the parliament. And so therefore, anything can happen in a sense within certain limits. And it is my view that we actually need to look at the role of parliamentarians, thinking through whether parliamentarians should in fact be ministers of government, and perhaps there should be a separation or a limiting of number of parliamentarians who should be ministers of government in the executive. These are the kinds of things I think that as a people we need to think through and ask ourselves, based on our history and what we have experienced, what is it that we want to ensure accountability, because I think that is at the bottom line of what is said there. Accountability and transparency. And that we get a true republic, which is government by the people, for the people. Those are my comments on that.
Thank you so much, Minister.
As a sitting MP and a member of the executive, I think it's a reasonable question. Those of us who are ministers and MPs, we're carrying 2 full-time jobs. And, you know, I was saying to my colleague Anne-Marie that all of us know that the challenges of the duties of the executive and the representational duty is something that I'm thinking about too. What I would just say, though, is that I know that the decisions I make as minister are so much richer from what I see in my representational role of the people, because everything I do is informed by what I see in a personal, intimate way that I wouldn't otherwise have the opportunity to see and experience for the people. But it's something that we will have to come to terms with. The system that we have now was designed for that, so you do not have an overthrow, for want of a better word, of the executive. But we have seen other systems where you have a strong backbench that can better hold the front bench to account. And I know certainly on the government side, it's an issue that the parliamentarians complain about all the time. So I am listening and observing and also taking into account the experience that I'm having here to help to inform the process. But this is one that we need to talk a little bit more about, because the role of the parliament is a critical role, and it's not secondary to what happens in the executive with the decisions that are taken on policy. So we'll have to engage a little bit more on that matter.
A former prime minister, if I can just add, a former prime minister said this: "It has seemed to me that the duties of a minister and a member of parliament should each normally require full-time attention. There are cases of exceptional individuals who manage to do both effectively, but these are the exceptions rather than the rule. Ideally, members should be able to concentrate virtually full-time on one job or the other. However, it is important that whoever performs either or both functions should be the direct product of the electoral process." In other words, we should elect both of them. Those are the words of Michael Manley back in 1994 in a memorandum he wrote to the Honorable David Corr. I say that to say, let's learn from those who have been in the process, and let's build on what they are saying. I'm not coming to a conclusion, but I'm saying that the issue that you have identified is a real one. And those who have been engaged in the process over time, they are saying there are some challenges that we may need to address going forward.
Thank you so much. Sir, you have a question? Please introduce yourself because time is drawing nigh on us.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Emil Rodney. I am the Councillor Caretaker for Port Antonio Division. I am aware that we are moving on the road to Republic, but I think a lot of the focus is being placed on our old constitution. I think we should find a way to take more suggestions of what we want our new constitution to be, what we want it to be like, because remember the constitution is basically the law of the land, right? My main question is, what are the financial benefits of us moving away from the monarch and forming our own head of state?
Thank you, sir. Mr. Rodney. And so we were talking about financial benefits and how that is going to be. And that was one of the questions as well online about how much money is it going to cost us to move from being a monarchy to a republic. But what are the benefits? Sir Hugh, are you taking this one?
A couple of months ago, I was interviewed by Muta Baruka, who asked me a similar question. And you know that Muta Baruka is as down to earth and feet on the pulse of the earth as you can get. He doesn't even wear shoes. And so I quoted something that he had said earlier, that there are some things that are of tremendous symbolic importance to us, a people who have emerged from generations of lack of rights, lack of respect, slavery, etc. And of course, he chuckled because I was using his own words back at him. Consider how we as Jamaicans feel when our sports people excel and the celebrations are taking place in towns, town squares, bars, all over the place. I mean, sometimes during the Olympics, different countries have camera people who set up in halfway tree for the big celebrations. And it is even more explosive when we establish world records. Our identity as a people is so much larger than our geographic mass. It is so much larger than our economic weight. We punch way above our weight in cultural and other areas. And one of the reasons why people say, what is the financial benefit? Is because we have been through so many hard times. And we kind of feel that if you can't show me the money, it doesn't make any difference to us. Well, I'm here to tell you that if you listen to what Bob Marley has been saying, Muta Baruka, and Peter Tosh and others, you will know I'm not that modern. I don't pretend to be, although I recognize that he's a popular star now. Popcorn. So we can't measure everything in terms of dollars and cents. When you go abroad and you speak about being a Jamaican, and when we stand out among all other Caribbean people, even when we're going through hardships and we're killing each other and going on, we are proud of who we are, and we need to ensure that the world recognizes that out of this process, we can have a result that indicates that the outcome has come because we have elevated our people to a point where their voice has been heard and has had a decisive impact on the structure of the state and the governance policies, accountability of the Jamaican people.
I'd just like to add to what Hugh has said. What is the financial benefit to me of Jamaica abolishing the monarchy and becoming a republic has been the hardest question to answer. In fact, when I was engaging MP Vaz about organizing this meeting, she said to me, you know, when she spoke with her constituents, they really were struggling to connect to the subject matter because all of their questions had to do with the local issues facing them. And so I wasn't surprised that you focused a lot on those issues in trying to make the link between what we're doing. I have to tell you that I've been grappling with it because I have not found the answer in the way that I think the people want to hear. But as Hugh has said, it is much more than that. Much more than that. Hard to tell a man that when all he is concerned about is his immediate bread and butter issue. But we have been so concerned with the immediate bread and butter issue that we believe now that it is okay to earn a living in utter chaos and disorder, totally disregarding the law, totally disregarding the environment. We're really going to have to pause and assess it. You can help us by telling us, you know, what it is that you're looking for by way of benefit from where you are observing the matter.
All right, I am fully aware of our culture, that is important, and doing things our way is the way forward. I'm not arguing against that. But on point 3 it says, serving colonial ties that... Severing, sorry, I'm not... Ties bind Jamaican head of state to the UK monarch, costing taxpayers millions of dollars. So is it costing us now to be a part of the monarch? Because it's on this paper. So that is something that has to be clarified with the wider public.
Well, we have to pay, the Governor General is actually representing the monarchy. So if we're going to have an office there, might as well we have an office in our own right, instead of it being a representative of the foreign monarch.
Thank you, Minister. Dr. McCarthy, you wanted to say something?
Yes, I was just reflecting on all that have been said so far. And in particular, there was a gentleman who, you know, was very passionate as he spoke about persons blocking roads because of things that they are not in agreement with, etc., etc. And what I'm thinking is that, for instance, our people are emerging where they want to be involved in what is happening in our country. And so engagement sessions like these will become the kind of forum in which they can hear their views and recognize that they too have a voice and that they will be listened to. I heard our MP making reference to a recent town hall meeting that was held. And it is obvious too that even though that was held, there are still the room for more of these. And I think that the more we become engaged, because even with this Constitution Reform Committee, what we have found is that by doing these kinds of town hall meetings and smaller group meetings, persons who had some negative views as to what the committee was doing and what the reform process was all about, you find that they will come in. If it was possible to take a photo shot of some persons who came in with their backs up, as it were, in defense, when they are leaving, you see a difference, because some of those concerns that they came in with and questions, you can hear that they have gotten some responses. We have had a number of meetings that we have been hosting, and the responses from persons at the end of the meeting is that, boy, I mean, I now have a better understanding of what it is. Now, it's going to take a lot of doing to get the message out. At the meeting this afternoon, Mr. Small asked the question, and I think it was asked again this afternoon, how many persons know about what is in the Constitution? And look at the book and the size of it and the jargon which is used there. It is not that easy to understand. So what we have to do is have a process of constantly breaking down what's in the Constitution so that everybody in Jamaica, as best as possible, can understand. And what is also very important, now all of you who are here at this meeting should then become like ambassadors. You have heard gotten some information this evening. When you go back to your smaller group setting, share it with them, because it's impossible, in a sense, for this committee to reach everybody in Jamaica. But when we speak with certain groups, we are expecting that they will now go back to their smaller group setting and share the information. But the conversation have to continue at all levels. And so we are not averse to having persons, the person who organizes the engagement session didn't maybe mention that you could also put in your proposal to come in and speak with us. Even the gentleman over there, he has given Minister a copy of his constitution. And so his proposal will be aired, because we have a list of persons that we are going to be meeting with, including him. I don't know if he has done a recent update, because at the last meeting in St. Catherine, he said that they were going to be working on an update. But I'm just saying that to say this. Reach out to us, and we will be able to help as best as possible. At the end of the day, every voice is important. Your voice, your say is important. And so we are looking to you to give your constant support, and we will be able to take it into consideration.
Thank you, Dr. McCarthy. We have one final question. Have you changed your mind, madam?
No.
Okay, well, introduce yourself and ask what. This is the last question because we need to wrap up. Go ahead.
So my name is Melanie.
Step closer to the microphone, please. Thank you.
My name is Melanie Byfield Kaur. I am a citizen of Jamaica, and one of the things I'd like to express, actually, first of all, is the involvement of the diaspora, but not only the diaspora, people like me. My parents, both my parents were born right here in Jamaica, and the exclusion of dual citizens from being a sitting member of Parliament, I feel is like a punishment to people like me. My parents left Jamaica not because they didn't desire Jamaica, because they were seeking better opportunity, as people are still doing today. We have teachers, nurses, everybody leaving these shores, looking for other opportunities. Their children shouldn't be punished as a result. So I would like to advocate for the serious discussion of where the diaspora and generations of Jamaicans stand in this new constitution and this new Jamaica.
Thank you, Ms. Byfield. Who is going to take this?
I'm not.
Okay, I know the
Dr.
minister
Spence.
is going to top up my answer, but I'll say this, that one of the first long and involved conversation we had at the Constitutional Reform Committee was this matter that you're talking about. Because all of us have family abroad, specifically those living outside of the Commonwealth, who we feel should earn the right to be involved in nation-making, if you want to call it that.
And that Commonwealth is a tricky one, because I would take real objection to a member of the Commonwealth, which could be Pakistan or Rwanda, being able to be a sitting member of Parliament over me.
But the Constitution now allows that.
But this is now
this is what we're looking on now, saying that there are Jamaicans who live outside of the Commonwealth, who for all intents and purposes are very much connected to here and have their hearts and minds in this space. And so we need to make sure that their rights are protected in our Constitution.
I'm sorry.
I'm just saying that that issue is very much on the table and is being discussed and is of concern to all the members of the committee in the way you have articulated it.
Okay, I did actually have like another part to my question. So the Constitutional Reform Committee has been criticized for comprising of mostly lawyers. So what I'd like to ask you is how you think that a committee made up of majority lawyers represents the interests of all the people in Jamaica. And the other, I'm sorry, the last part that I had, there was reference to the Crown land. There's many consequences to colonialism that Jamaica has suffered and is still suffering, one of which is agriculture. Referencing back to Michael Manley actually mentioned in his book, Up the Down Escalator, that 70% of the agricultural land in this country is in the hand of something like 5 or 10% of people. COVID showed us what it's like to be unable to basically provide for yourself. So how does agriculture and Jamaica's ability to produce its own food, what does that look like in a new constitution?
So start with the part about lands.
Okay. Well, one of the things that the minister mentioned before that I think perhaps is that the issues related to rights and access to lands and so on are going to be discussed in the second part of our conversations around constitutional reform. And that at this moment what we are discussing are those deeply entrenched provisions that will require a referendum. But I'm sure she'll follow up on that. And to say on the matter of the lawyers and the Constitutional Reform Committee, that even though I know the people on a lot of the people on the Constitutional Reform Committee are lawyers, they're not just lawyers. There are other things as well. So I don't think that we have a committee made up of people who are just going to court every day and are just married in the law. There are people who are Jamaicans who have a multiplicity of experiences that they bring to the Reform Committee. And so I think that from these several experiences, we get a very rich kind of engagement. But as well, one of the things I heard about our constitution since I started serving on this committee is that those who decided to frame our constitution framed parts of our constitution in such a way that it was almost impossible for us to change it. So if you notice that there are other countries in the Caribbean, the Commonwealth Caribbean, that have gone ahead and have changed to a republic, and they never had the kinds of realities that we had to engage. Mm-hmm. And so for that reason, you would be surprised at how technical it is for us to have this conversation and to try to figure out how do we go about doing this. And that it is precisely because we have all of these lawyers that is making the process, I think.
And what I meant by that is different members of society.
Right, so that's what I'm saying. They are not just lawyers. They are other members on the committee, but also we have subcommittees, and on those subcommittees we invite other members to sit who are from all walks of life as well.
Thank you so much, Dr. Spence. Unfortunately, we could go on and on all evening. We have so many. Please. No, we need to wrap up, sir. Please. We need to wrap up, Kojo. We have to go. Yes, we have to go at this point because others are traveling back to Kingston, and we have other things that we understand. And the diaspora has been an ongoing conversation, which we will still have. We have public engagements, which we will be sending out information, unfortunately. So we have to, no. All of these things, the lands, the beaches, all of that, it was a constant conversation. Sir, we have to wrap at this point.
About leaving the monarch. And it really concerns me that I had to say something about it.
Sir, money has been something that has come up
let me
from the very beginning.
say this. Madam Minister, we need to start teaching our people what it means to be a sovereign nation. And presently, Jamaica is not sovereign. We are under the king. So those who are worrying about what it is going to benefit us financially, we need to start teaching them about being self-sufficient, managing your own business, answering to no one. And therefore, we must do this by moving away from the monarch. I couldn't leave that alone. And we're talking about money.
Understood, sir. And it's part of public engagement to have everyone understand the purpose and the movement from the monarchy to the republic. And everybody will have their opinion, and we have to be gentle with them as we learn, because it's a lot to learn and it's a lot to process. The Constitution is several hundred pages, and there's a lot with the process and the phases that we will be going through to get this done. But of course, it cannot be done without you understanding and signing on it. Okay, so thank you all so much, Minister, for having our next town hall meeting, and thank you so much, MP Vaz and the Custos, please giving our thanks to you, the members of Portland, everyone here who has welcomed us to this beautiful parish. We want to hear from you. We need to hear from you because the conversation is ongoing, and you can go to our website, mlca.gov.jm. You can email us, constitutionalreform@mlca.gov.jm. at mlca.gov.jm on social media, on Instagram. We have the Road to Republic, and you can WhatsApp us at 876-441-9097. So let us hear from you, because this is an ongoing conversation. It will take some time, but we want to ensure that your voices are heard. So on behalf of the Ministry of Legal and Constitutional Affairs, I'm Roxy Nickel. Walk good.